territorial and dominant?
And a female.
When we hear the word rhinoceros, we think of huge, lumbering, thick-skinned animals with wicked horns on their faces. We think of animals that are prone to charging and attacking anything that gets in their way, and are not afraid of even elephants, let alone smaller animals. Yet most fossil rhinoceroses had no horn at all. Only a handful of lineages ever developed horns, and they occurred in a variety of combinations, from horns that were paired on their noses, horns that are tandem, one in front of the other, to a single horn in the forehead, to a single horn on the nose. How do we know this? Rhino horns are not made of bone like the horns of many other large mammals. Instead, they're made of fibers of keratin glued together, the same substance that makes up your hair or fingernails. This material usually does not fossilize, so the only way to know if a rhino skull had a horn is to look for the spongy roughened area on the top of the skull where the horn grew from and attached. Paleontologists cannot use the horns to define what makes a rhino. Instead, there are a variety of anatomical features that are unique to rhinos. One of the most distinctive are their upper molars, which are shaped like the Greek letter pi. This is a dead giveaway you have a rhino fossil. The earliest fossil rhinos show this pie-shaped pattern in the upper molars, but they're almost indistinguishable from the earliest fossil horses and the earliest fossil tapirs about 55 million years ago. This is strong evidence how closely related these three groups are. Rhinos have a long evolutionary history going back 55 million years. The earliest rhino fossils are known as Hyraceus from beds around 52 million years ago, which is about the size of a sheep. It was relatively unspecialized, yet it still had the rhino-like upper molars. From Hyraceus, rhinos diversified into three main groups. The first group were the Ymynodont rhinos, which have a specialized from our aquatic lifestyle. The most extreme example of this is Metamynodon, from the beds around 32 million years old in the Badlands of South Dakota. Its skull resembles that of a living hippo with huge tusks. Another Ymynodont, known as Ymynodontopsis, comes in beds around 42 million years old in the western U.S. and China. It had its nasal bones retracted far back, suggesting that it had a small trunk or proboscis. An even larger trunk appears in the Ymynodont from rocks around 27 million years old in Pakistan, known as Kurdurkadon. It was the last of the Ymynodonts. The second group of extinct rhinos were the Hyraceodonts. They started out as small goat-sized animals and developed long-running legs, so Hyraceodon from the big badlands of South Dakota was one of the fastest animals on the landscape. Yet, they also evolved to become gigantic intricatheir rhinos like Paraceratherium, which reached 20 tons and was the largest land mammal to ever live. Both the Hyraceodonts and the Ymynodonts died out around 23 million years ago. The only group to survive was the living family Rhinoceroses. Their earliest fossils include Telitaceras, from beds around 42 million years old in Oregon. By about 36 million years ago, rhinos had diversified to several different forms, including Trigonius, the last rhinoceros to still have 4 toes in its front foot. It was also the last rhino to still have more than one pair of incisors in its upper and lower jaws. Later, rhinos evolved a combination of blade-like upper incisor that includes against a tusk-like lower canine. About 35 million years ago, the common rhino was Subhyraceodon, which is about the size of a cow but still lacked horns. These evolved into Diceratherium, which had a pair of ridges on the tip of its nasals. Then, about 23 million years ago, the genus Rhinoceros arrived in North America from Eurasia. It also had paired knob-like horns on their snouts, but only the size of a sheep, with long, slender limbs. It was often mistakenly called Diceratherium because of the paired nasal horns, but they're entirely different not only in the detail of their horns, but also in the rest of their anatomy. Rhinoceros show strong sexual dimorphism, with male skulls having horns and females lacking them. Rhinoceros is by far the most common animal in the Agate Fossil Beds National Monument, western Nebraska. Hundreds of individuals that died in huge herds were fossilized there. Rhinoceros lasted until about 20 million years ago, when it was replaced by 2 new immigrant groups from Eurasia. One group was the hornless Aceratherian rhinos. The most common North American genus of Aceratherians was Aphelops, which lived until almost 5 million years ago. It became larger through its long evolutionary history. Another Aceratherian was Rhinoceroses, which was much larger, more heavily built rhino, although it also had a dwarf species in the Texas Gulf coastal plain. Immigrating in from Eurasia, alongside the Aceratherians about 18 million years ago, was another lineage, the Teleoceratines. Teleoceras had short, stumpy legs, a barrel-shaped body, and eventually developed high-crowned teeth for eating grittier vegetation. Grasses were even found in the throats of some specimens. Its lifestyle has been compared to that of a hippopotamus, although there are problems with this analogy. Teleoceras is the last rhino in North America, dying out about 5 million years ago during the great extinction of many groups of mammals that ended the North American Miocene savanna ecosystem. Meanwhile, in Eurasia, there were also Aceratherians and Teleoceratines dominating the world of Miocene about 20 million years ago until 5 million years ago. During the Ice Ages, new rhinos arose. These include the elephant-sized elasmotheres, with one gigantic horn on their forehead. The most famous Ice Age rhino was the woolly rhinoceros, which originated in Tibet. It roamed the edge of the ice sheets in Eurasia. It is known from several mummified specimens that preserve hair and stomach contents, and their horns also fossilized. The front horn was shaped like a narrow saber blade, has scratches on the leading edge that might have been due to using it to scrape away snow and find food. DNA analysis of the woolly rhino show that it's closely related to the Sumatran rhino of Indonesia, the smallest and hairiest of living rhinos. Today, only 5 species of rhino survive on the planet: the black rhino and white rhino of Africa, and the Indian, Sumatran, and Java rhinos of Asia. All are threatened by decades of ferocious killing by poachers for their valuable horns, which are worth more per gram than gold or cocaine. Some of the horn goes to making fancy daggers for rich Arab sheikhs, but most of it goes to the market for traditional Asian medicine in China and Vietnam. Rhino horn is no more medicine than your fingernail clippings or your hair, but in these cultures it's so valuable, the increased wealth in China and Vietnam has driven this relentless poaching. Today, these lumbering giants of the prehistoric past are on the brink of total extinction. Just a few thousand of most of the species survive. It would be truly tragic if these wonderful animals that survived 55 million years of climate change and mass extinction were wiped out due to human superstitions. To learn more about American rhinoceroses, check out my 2005 book on the topic.